Okay. Let me just see if anybody else wants to join. Let me make sure I get this to all the other platforms so that way the people that are online know that I am live. Post that to Instagram. Of course, if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, at Project Bodybuilding 1, what are you doing otherwise? Okay. Okay, let me make sure Breon's video works. I'd hate for it to not work. Okay. Okay, perfect. So I am going to do this live. As you can probably tell by the live format, I'm going to do one of these reaction videos live. Just different from what I usually do. I still do them in like one take, very minimal editing. But I usually like to do these raw, for lack of a better term. So I decided, well, this would be perfect for a live format, especially if once I start doing more of these lives and more, we gain more followers, the chat grows. There's no reason not to do it live and get some opinions while, I'm reacting to the video because I think that is the best way to do it because I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are as well. So, in today's video, let's see what I exactly titled it. It's a reaction to Brion's video. I forget his title exactly. Um, the question is structure versus Brion, and it basically is him going over. I skimmed through the video to make a short about it earlier, but it's basically just him, from what I gathered, making doing a recap of his two Arnold appearances. He placed fourth at the Arnold Ohio, and then did manage to creep up into second at the Arnold UK. But now he's having second thoughts about Classic. Well, I had second thoughts about Classic. He's obviously moving to the 212 based on the title. So that's basically the news. We are going over Brion leaving Classic, and then of course he's going to the 212. We're going to discuss that move in and of itself, whether it's the right move, the right choice. We'll see what he has to say about it, and then we're also going to discuss a couple of criticisms he has about the Classic Physique division itself, which really aren't that, maybe a little controversial, but I think they're largely popular opinions. It just maybe things that people don't want to admit about the Classic Physique and how there are some inherent flaws with Classic Physique in a weight cap and a height per weight cap. You guys know what I mean. You run into trouble when you do things like that. So let's just go ahead and jump to the video. Like I said, this is the question is structure versus Brion. So let's get into it. Make sure you guys like the stream, subscribe if you haven't, and of course join the chat if you have any thoughts. Leave them down in the chat. I'll be reading chat.
Hey, what is up, family? How we feeling? This
I'm all right.
YouTube video is going to be about Arnold's. My feeling, emotions about what transpired at the Arnold's, both the Arnold International in Ohio and the Arnold UK. Yes, and what I'm going to do, what my thought process is moving forward the rest of this year in Classic. First of all, Arnold International in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. I definitely went into this one wanting another Arnold Classic title. The first one was in 2018.
Yeah.
And I wanted another one. Very, 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 very bad. I think this look, guys, was one of my best classic looks, actually. Yeah. Kind of.
I think in a long time, because he's been hurt by the weight cap, especially those legs. This definitely, either of those packages from, I personally thought the 2024 Arnold Ohio, yeah, Ohio was the better version, but I think he personally thinks UK was the best version, was his better version. Definitely two of the best Brions we've seen in a while, and that's basically because he's got an increase to his weight cap. I think he got 7 more pounds to play with, which is a lot, But I think he came to find, and we'll come to find out that it just is not enough, was not enough.
Comparing to 2018 Olympia, last year's 2023 Olympia were two of my best looks, and I think this last Arnold Classic International in Columbus, Ohio, was close to those looks. Close to those looks. Now, I was downsized a little bit. I
For
was
sure.
probably on stage at a 190. With the Olympia, I was on stage at maybe 194, 5. So about a 4 or 5 pound difference, which does make a difference, guys. And I'll get into all that too. Yeah, but I thought I was the sharpest, some of the sharpest that I've ever been.
Yeah.
From the back, my waist was the smallest. Shoot, like when I had to come down to 180 pounds. Well, all the years, was my waist was the smallest it's ever been, comparable to the earlier years when my waist was super super tiny, like 2016, 17, 18, comparable to those years. And the reason being on why my waist was very tight this year at guys is because I really got a hold of my acid reflux digestion problem. That's my American Bully Butters in the background snoring, guys. If you hear her, all right, don't pay her any mind.
What a
She's just getting
disgusting
her
dog breed.
anabolic rest. So she'll probably come and say hi at some point in time throughout this video. So yeah, we were talking about the waist, and because I got a hold of my digestion, acid reflux issues, which I know was happening because of pre-workouts, guys, and powders, pre-workout powders, fat burning powders. I was having acid reflux, and I couldn't put my whole finger on it. I didn't know all of exactly why, but that was it. That was it. So I took that out, this prep, and what a difference it made, as far as training is concerned, not having to take Prilosec every day, having just no inflammation in there, a considerable amount of less inflammation. Now, it wasn't entirely gone, because I think a little espresso and a little caffeine coffee wakes it up a little bit, the acid reflux. But overall, 75, 80% better.
I guess this video should have been called Acid Reflux versus
And
Brion,
we just keep on
because
moving forward from there. So
let's speed it up.
I'm very happy about that, and that made a big difference throughout the prep and on stage.
For sure. He definitely looked like he had come back to life a little bit at the
place.
Arnold.
Okay, it was a fourth place.
Yeah, fourth
in
place
Ohio,
finish.
guys. And the feedback was that I was too small. Now, I think, guys,
That's such an interesting critique from, because as we know, he's a guy that's at his weight cap. And I get it, you can definitely be too small at your weight cap, but it's definitely an interesting dynamic. You're basically saying, here's something that we want you to fix, but you absolutely cannot fix. You can improve on it maybe 5 to 10%, but with better fullness. But if you have to weigh in Thursday and you step on stage Friday morning, how much can you really peak your body? It's just not obviously going to be. Guys at Classic, what I'm trying to say, hardly ever compete at their best. And it is what it is. You have guys that kind of hover around the weight limit that can still manage to peak as they want to, but most of these guys like Brion cut down severely and then are scrambling to carb up. So, I don't know how many of these guys actually compete at their best. It's the best for what they can do and what they have to work with, the time they have to work with. But in terms of their overall best classic physique, I don't know if we ever see that from a whole lot of guys, to be honest. I think we see it here and there, but most of the, when you have a weight cap, it just is what it is. So yeah, the judges told him he needs to be a little bit bigger, which of course is odd considering the weight cap. But I'm sure he's going to say the same thing.
2016, 17, 18, 19, that look would have been the look to win. against anybody, against anybody. But classic, guys, has changed. Classic has changed over the years. The look from the big, tall guys has changed with their weight.
For sure.
It has improved. The tall guys weren't at the top, in those years. After about 2000 and when did
19.
Brion and Urs kind of hit the scene with 4 and 5?
21.
2021, 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys hit the scene, and the look started changing, guys, to favor a taller guy, and the taller guys really got a hold of their conditioning. The taller guys
Yeah.
really started coming into their own with the look, okay, with an improved look all the way around, big legs, muscle density, lines, detail. Well, not all of that, I think, right?
Sure.
In my
All right. So we'll stop that there because he's making the claim that we kind of all have caught on to. The standard has changed. The standard is no longer Breon, and the standard was Breon because make no mistake about it. When you are Mr. Olympia, you set the standard. It is what it is. Like the judges took a look at whether they have a standard or they want you to set the standard, whatever it is. You are at the helm of the division. You are what they want. You have bested everybody on a certain amount of criteria or whatever those criteria are, and you're number one. But now he made an interesting claim that I actually agree with wholeheartedly. The lineup that you're in matters a lot. And we're going to see this with the Open. Think about it. Guys usually follow the top. Think about how big Jay Cutler got up until a point, and then he lost because he was getting too big, stomach out of control, whatnot. And then he came back down again. He competed in 09 at like 250 or something like that, and he didn't look at it all, but he focused on the details and things like that because the standard was Dexter Jackson, but it was Ronnie Coleman. So he adapted to what he needed to do. But Brion really can't because it's coming down to a height thing. And we know it's coming down to a height thing because he's just as muscular as anybody else. He was just as complete when he was losing. I think the legs have come down, but like there were some years that he had good legs. 2020, 2019, even in 2021 they were okay. 2023 he didn't get the placing over Urs, which I don't think he should have won 2023 at all, but it's definitely interesting. So basically, the standard is changing because of the lineup. Because the judges have more of the guys they actually want to choose from. And like I said, we're going to see this in Open. We have more massive class guys coming up. Rafael Brandao, Samson Dauda, Hottie has improved his shape. I mean, I wouldn't call him, exactly massive class, but you kind of get that. Andrew Jacked. We're going to have a whole lot of other massive class guys to choose from. So you may be seeing a situation where guys at the Open level, where size and condition usually reign supreme, like as long as you tick 11 out of 10 boxes on conditioning and size, you can usually get away with some poorer structure because this is open bodybuilding. But now the Open guys are coming into having mass, shape, structure, and size. Basically all the above, even if it's like a little less on the size and the shape, but they have size and condition, but they have the shape. If there's enough of them, they can start filling the top spots, and it's not going to look out of place. So I do agree with Brion there. After Urs and Ramon came in, it's like the taller guys have finally, stepped up their game. So to put it bluntly, he's getting pushed out.
Particular opinion, but we'll get into that too. So the look has changed. I think, like I said, my look at the Arnold International of Columbus, Ohio would have won in previous years, but it being a smaller look, more detailed conditioned, a smaller waist and all that, the look wasn't good enough for the win. It was only good enough for fourth place. All right? So the feedback was to come in fuller, Brion, to be fuller.
Yeah.
All right? Now remember, guys, I'm losing muscle coming down to 187 still, as the weight is still with the weight increase last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I'm losing muscle. So if I'm going to be that low in weight, I'm definitely going to be sacrificing muscle. That's just the name of the game and where my body's at and, what I have to sacrifice to get down to the weight. So, nevertheless, I think that I was able to hold on to a considerable amount still and present a great look that I was satisfied with.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got guys that I'm up against right now and Wesley being number one, and Ramon being number two, and yours being number three, that
Several inches
are
taller
more
than Brion.
complete as a taller guy. And remember, guys, if you have a guy that's taller that gets to outweigh guys that are my height by like 30, not 30, but maybe even 40, 50 pounds. I'm not sure what yours' weight is, or I'm not sure what Ramon's weight is, but I think it's around 30, 40 pounds to where they get to outweigh you,
Yeah.
right? That's going to show up.
If I'm not mistaken, for example, this is just an example. Wesley's like 6'3". That means he's at minimum weighing 240. And I think it's a little bit more. I'm not going to pull it up. But it's at least 240 because Chris competes at 240. And Wesley's like an inch taller than him. So Brion is quite literally going up against someone that is 50. And before the weight cap increase, it would have been about 60 pounds bigger than him. Whether he has more frame to fill out or not, it 60 pounds is 60 pounds. Like, I get it. Some of it will just be actual skeletal mass, organ mass, because, that's a bigger human. But 60 pounds is a lot. And I do kind of have, like, one solution to that kind of solution. It doesn't really fix... It introduces another problem, but we'll get to that more at the end. But he's right. He's getting outweighed by... Urs probably weighs 30 to 40 pounds more than him. I don't know what they hide in and weight in at exactly at. So I don't know. It's at least 30 pounds. And then for Wesley and Chris, it's 40 to 50 pounds.
On a taller guy on stage. That's going to show up on a taller guy on stage.
Yeah.
That has some muscle, the weight will show. The weight will show with this particular dynamic. Now, I know we've heard for years that it's not all about the weight. It's not all about the weight and all that, but with a taller and shorter guy, it can be about the weight for damn sure. When you have the parameters that you do. Now, it can be evened out when you don't have parameters, and I'm able to come in at maybe 210, 212, 215, which can be done. But when you have the parameters as them being pretty low, like I have to come down to 187 pounds,
sure,
then it could make a difference.
That was actually my solution. He just hinted at... And it's not a solution because it's not a fix-all. We are trading problems around basically for what it is. So he said the weight cap, specifically, like the rules are the weight cap. You have to abide by the weight cap. Well, we know Classic has a different judging criteria. We are looking for Classic lines, and conditioning matters a lot. So why not just remove the weight cap? And that is the solution. Like, just come in to weigh whatever you want, whatever you need to. But the problem is, guys will immediately start pushing the envelope, and the judges, in order to be objective, are going to try to go with the objective choice, and that usually boils down to who is the most shredded and who is the biggest. That's how we got from Arnold Schwarzenegger in 1975 to 40 years later. We've had Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, Phil Heath, all these mass monsters who, Phil Heath was probably the same size, like 240 on stage that Arnold was, but like several inches shorter than Arnold. So usually that's just not really, it's just not really a solution, like I said, because then you run the risk of Classic just becoming another Open, and maybe not in 10 years, maybe not in 20 years, but pushing the envelope and Open happened pretty quickly. Like, look at the difference between Dorian Yates and Lee Haney. Like, right, there's a decade between, not even a decade between Dorian's last Olympia win and Lee's first. And look how much the standard has changed. That's how quickly things change in bodybuilding, and they can. So I don't really trust, I'll just be honest, I don't trust the judges to not go for the objective choice. Because think about it already. They always get, harped on for having subjective choices. Well, I think this guy's more Classic, but the judges chose this guy. Like, what even is Classic? How many times have we heard that? What is Classic? What is Classic? Brion is asking it in this video. What is Classic anymore? It's apparently a taller guy, but 5 years ago it was a shorter guy. Whatever you think about that, the standard has changed. So, in order to maybe kind of taper that down, they may choose the biggest guy and the most shredded guy. That's That's pretty much the main and only criticism I can think of just removing the weight cap. Now, sure, we can say we're looking for the small waist, we want a physique like this, but how long until that quickly devolves into just picking who pushes the envelope the most?
Make a difference if, say, the taller guys can be in the 230s, in the 240s, even. Okay, that's around 50 pounds, right? 40s would be 50 pounds, almost 60 guys. So that puts it all in perspective. Okay, and I probably agree with the judges that if I'm 190 pounds on stage, then a taller guy at 230, 240, 245 is going to look considerably bigger than me. Okay?
Yep.
He's going to look considerably bigger than me and is going to look like he has a lot bigger structure, a lot more muscle, and the eyes are going to be drawn to the taller guy, right? The eyes are going to be drawn to the taller guy for sure. And, you know, conditioning and all that, and lines and separation and maybe in density, that's probably going to be secondary. That's probably going to be secondary.
Especially in
When the
classic.
gap
Structure
of
just
pounds
matters. Yeah.
is
Structure
so
and
big.
size.
Get me? So,
I get you, Brion.
the result of that was a fourth place. The feedback was that I looked a little small next to yours, Wesley, and Ramon. So the feedback was to come in fuller.
Smaller, but he was more complete than
Arnold
hers.
UK 2 weeks later, I came in fuller at 194, 5 pounds, almost 10 pounds more. And that was an improvement. That was improvement. And I think I sacrificed a little sharpness, guys.
Yeah, he had sharpness
I
to
was
spare.
only given weigh-ins were on Thursday at 3 p.m. Okay, and game day was on Friday at like noon. So, guys, I was only given
Yeah, that's
way
just not
less
enough
than
time.
24 hours to fill up. Even shorter time than in Ohio. Okay, so we had to eat a lot, eat fast, digest fast, and make it work really, really fast. As you guys know, that was good enough for second place. I feel that that look still was great, a great look. For me, and my preference, I would have given the nod to my look in Columbus, Ohio. Now,
Okay.
if I was
Well,
up against,
I'm actually in agreement
now,
there.
if I was up against maybe if Terrence was in the lineup, or what are some of the other shorter top guys? My man Alex was in the lineup. What's my man's name that from also Germany that got fifth place 2 years ago? Mike Summerfield was in the lineup. Give me some other shorter guys. Some of the other guys. A guy from Brazil that's going to do Arnold South America this
Diego
just giving you
Galindo.
some shorter guys.
Yeah, Diego.
Then the Arnold Ohio look might have worked, guys. Might have.
Like, like he said, the lineup determines a lot, and a lot of people don't understand that, and I don't quite understand the phenomenon either. But it's just like when you have more guys, when only one guy fits the standard, it kind of looks weird to pick him and put him in first place when everyone else looks the same. Like it's kind of weird to choose the odd man out, but in some instances that makes sense to choose the odd man out because that's what we're looking for at the end of the day. It's very odd, but at the end of the day, the lineup does matter. And it's a phenomenon that I will study because I don't quite understand it myself. But I know even looking at different guys between different shows, nothing could change, right? But the lineups that they're in, if they change, it looks different. You look different next to different people. It's odd, It's some bodybuilding is an illusion, and that plays into it.
Have been the number one look. Might have been good enough for gold. Okay, but it's who else is up there, and what else is going on. Okay.
Yeah.
And the taller guys are up there with 40, 50 more pounds. So you have to be full. You have to be full. Like even the guys with so much muscle, like a Sean Clarita or a Keon in the 212, we all would have looked, guys, we all would have looked small up against somebody who outweighs us by, like I said, 30, 40, 50 pounds. It just is what it is when you have muscle up there. And the tall guys have muscle. So they're gonna dwarf you. Okay? They're gonna dwarf you. So yeah, that's going over that. I hope we understand that and can really understand the details of it. And we move past it. And so best believe the rest of this year as I compete, it's gonna be a fuller look. It's
All
going to
right.
be a fuller look in all the looks that we bring. It's going to be a fuller look, and no matter what, no matter who I'm up against, actually, no matter who I'm up against, the probably the better look is just to be fuller,
Yeah, and
just
that's
to be
all you
fuller.
can do.
And you don't know who's doing from the shows from show to show to show. You can't adjust your look according to your competition and who you're competing against. You just have to just go with your best look. And my best look for sure, though, muscularity wise, guys, and density wise, muscularity and
It probably
density
was a
wise.
2024 Arnold.
Maybe not muscularity and density. Okay, conditioning in my low back, I think suffered a little bit in the UK, and even in my glutes, I think suffered just a little bit in the UK. But muscularity wise and density wise, I was better in UK than in Ohio. And so,
He's
okay, with
aging
a
well in
fuller
that
look,
department.
even with a bigger Urs. Urs came in bigger, guys, in the
Yeah,
UK,
but they
but I
gave him the
noticed that
nod
everybody
over Urs
noticed
in the
I was
UK.
still able to hold him off and get the win over him, but not a Wesley, because Wesley's even taller than yours and has
Yes.
even given more
50-pound
pounds
difference
than
there,
yours and
probably.
Ramon. Wesley can probably be 250, guys. A high
Yeah,
240s into the 250s, as tall as he is. He's
somewhere in
like
there.
6'3". He's very, very tall. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at. So look out for the Black Swan here, guys. Coming to a show near you. I'm going to do at least 3 shows other
3
than the
shows.
Olympia this year, and it's going to be a fuller look. All right, that's going to be the look.
And competing at 3 shows is
What else we
interesting.
got for you? Without a doubt, this will be my last classic year. Without a doubt, this will be my last classic year, 2024, 1,000%. Checking to see what my dog is doing. 1,000%, no question about it, because it is finally time. It's finally time, even with the weight increase
Yeah.
to 100.
Okay, so he's moving up to the 212 next year. He's going to go out with a bang this year and do multiple shows. And last year, the 2023 season was supposed to be his first year in the 212. Because in 2022, he was at a low point, not placings-wise, because he was still in the top 5, but physique-wise. He just looked beat up. He looked stringy, especially in the legs. They were just gone. The shreds are there, and that kind of helps him, but they were just gone. So he was like, screw this. I'm going to the 212. But then he got 7 more pounds to play with. And then at the 2023 Olympia, he did look a little rejuvenated. Fast forward to both Arnolds. He looked rejuvenated at both. So that 7 pounds did help. But it's clearly just not enough. Like, he placed behind Urs at one show and ahead of him at the other show. And that's kind of where he should be placing. Like, he's still, like he said, he's not going to be Wesley. He's not. Ramon would have to be insanely off, like even more off than he was at Arnold, Ohio, for it to matter. He's definitely not beating Chris. I don't think anyone's beating Chris for that matter, but he's just not beating these taller guys. So it is what it is, but let's see what he says about his move to the 212.
87 pounds last year. It's finally time, guys, to really see how much my muscle can expand, how much it can grow, how much
He's
it can
46.
develop
Keep that in
through all this
mind.
hard work, right? Ultimately, it is about muscle. It is about muscle. And we need it to grow, okay? Butters, come here, sit down. Sit down. Getting my dog, guys, telling her to just sit down for a second. Sit down. Sit. So, did I cover everything? Okay, let me go over this real fast. Yeah,
Okay.
I think this needs to be talked about. Okay, so classic, in my opinion, and classic for others' opinion, it might be a little different as I see it. Okay,
Everyone has their own opinion, especially when it
so
comes to classic.
I see classic being just well-rounded, conditioning, muscularity, details, density, shape, structure, everything being taken into account. Right, not leaving anything out.
Yeah.
But I think the criteria with the taller guys lends itself more to the shape, lends itself more to shape and structure. And all of the other stuff is kind of secondary.
Yeah,
Density,
yeah.
conditioning.
So with a taller guy, it's kind of like shape is first in classic across the board. Like, you can't just. Unfortunately, if you have a wider waist, you can only do so well in classic. It is what it is. Whether it is the division. It's a small waist contest, to some degree. But like you said, taller guys, they have taller guys with a small waist, that kind of goes without saying. The small waist thing kind of goes without saying. But taller guys kind of check both boxes at the same time. That's the structure the judges want clearly, but also if as long as you fill out that frame, I mean you don't even have to fill it out that much. It's classic physique, right? So if you are 6 foot, you are automatically checking two boxes: structure and size. And as long as you are decently conditioned, that what is the shorter guy's argument? I don't think you need to be as complete if your shape is really like Chris's shape versus Brion's shape. I mean, I could see the argument for Brion, but I think Chris's shape is great. I don't know if I'd call it better. They're different, and that's the thing with classic. I don't know if anyone's necessarily better at like the top five at the Olympia, top three at the Olympia level. I don't know if anybody's necessarily better, but they're certainly different. But they're going with a different than Brion's different. So
Details, lines, even symmetry and balance and flow. Okay, it's more so structure heavy
yeah,
with the taller classic athlete because
I don't think that's necessarily a criticism either. I don't think it's necessarily criticizing it. It's just it just is what it is. Like this is classic, right? You didn't see like Phil Heath levels of completeness back in the day. You know, Arnold didn't have the best this or that. Robbie Robinson didn't have the best this or that. Neither did Lee Haney. Whatever you want to say about whoever, no one has or never ever will be perfect. And a lot of those guys had serious gaps, usually in the lower body and or the backs. But that's okay because the standard at the time was you need to bring in good structure, good size. And back in those days, it probably was heavy on the chest and the arms, but that was just the standard nowadays. So I don't think he's necessarily critiquing it as much as he's just pointing it out and saying, well, this clearly isn't for me anymore.
as we can see, right, that your taller athlete has bigger structure. As we can see that and understand that, and even if the shorter athlete has great symmetry, balance, and flow, still your eyes are going to be drawn to the bigger guy.
Yeah.
So as far as what is being rewarded and judged out there, maybe a little bit different than how what I see and what I bring to the table, right? Because I don't bring as much structure, and my shape was good, but my lat to waist ratio isn't as
It's
dominant.
It's
Lat
great,
to
but
waist
not
to
insane.
quad ratio maybe isn't as dominant. I think it was great though. This, like I said, at the Arnold Classic Ohio. But if you have just a big structure, that is going to be dominant. Those ratios are going to be they're going to stand out, and your eyes are going to be drawn to them. And once we understand the evolution of classic physique at this juncture, then we understand how things go, and how things run, and how things flow. What I can assure you is this year is going to be very interesting, man. It's going to be very interesting the rest of this year, and especially now that you guys see where I'm coming from with how we've talked about this. But nevertheless, let's rock out. Let's work as hard as we've ever worked. I still feel like I have so much left in the tank. Finish this classic year off.
Yeah, as much Brion is older. Like he's 46, but I don't think his legs are necessarily being hurt by his age as much as it is the weight cap. But I do want to get to a couple of chats here. I think classic is unfair, but that's fine. Tall guys need a division. 212 is unfair for tall people, which should exist too. I think that's fair. I think all of Brion, basically all that Brion is saying is it is what it is. I think maybe at one point in time he was kind of pissed about him being pushed out of the division, but now it's just like, yeah, it is what it is. He's more excited to get better than anything. Someone said, I think Brion would excel at 212, shorter stature guys who just aren't big enough for open, but don't have the height or structure to compete with classic guys. Usually go to the 212. I had that last part in, but yeah, that's true. I just don't know. Like, I don't think Brion has been hurt by his age, but how much is it going to hinder him going forward? But there's about 2 minutes left in the video. I think he does touch a little bit on his game plan for 212.
With a bang, and then we're going to the 212 next year. We're going to the 212 next year so we can really capitalize on all this hard work over the years and all of our muscle. And one last thing, in the 212 division, I feel like I only need maybe about 3 to 5 pounds of quality tissue to be right there at the top level on the Olympia level, and fight for a #1 spot. I think all I need is about 3 to 5 pounds of quality tissue, and I'll be great to go. So because think about this. If I'm on stage at 194, 5, 6 pounds, with classic, right? Then with 3 to 5 pounds of extra tissue, I'll be on stage at around maybe add 10 more pounds, right? So
Yeah, with
that'll
the added
be
fullness.
204, 205, 206 after you fill up, and that'll be plenty. And that's almost.
You know, I don't necessarily see it that way. Like I said, I need to see how he puts on size. Like even 3 to 5 pounds at like 46. That's being in the game for this long at this level. Like that is. I don't want to say it's going to be hard because actually he's been sucking down for so long. It may actually be pretty easy, especially like if he cuts down for a show, then immediately rebounds. His body's just primed to grow at this point, even though he is 46. So I don't really. I mean, the thing is, I don't think he needs 3 to 5 pounds. I think he needs more than that. The thing is, he's already complete for classic, but he just needs more. Like imagine him going shot for shot with Keon Pearson. What is one shot he would win in? I don't necessarily see any poses like add 10 pounds to Brion. Even then, he's gonna need more. I would say
That's almost at the cap, right? That's just around
on
6, 7 pounds
stage.
away from the cap. So that puts it all in perspective, and those are the plans for the rest of this year and the thought process heading into next year. All right, love you guys. I appreciate the love. You guys know that wholeheartedly. Guys, hit that website so you can get coached by myself and Brandon Gertis. All right? We are the best, and we will give you the best coaching.
All right.
Brandon is the best. Brandon is the best, I will say. I'm good at what I do, but Brandon is the absolute best at what you would get from him and from our style, is what I will say, okay? Because I've been with him, guys, for almost 10 years now. And, as these guys are flippity flopping with coaches, I could tell you that I wouldn't dare because I see the value. I see the value and I see what Brandon brings to the
Subtle
table.
knock
What else
at
do we have?
Samson.
ForTheDamnWin.com, there is all your coaching information.
Is that
All
it?
right. Thoroughly. And once again, thank you guys for the love and support. And let's have a hell of a year.
Yeah. Okay. I'll stop it right there. Okay. So more or less, that's. I agree with just about everything he said. It's moved into a tall man's division. The classic is a tall man's division now at this point. But like Minecraft avatar of Hunter Biden said, I think there should be a class for taller guys. The shorter guys kind of have 212, and I mean the open guys are kind of in that middling way. But there are a lot of taller guys moving into open, so that's whatever. But well, let's see here. So overall, I don't really disagree with anything he said. As far as the classic standards, now for 212 and his success there, I mean I can break out Breon and do a comparison against he says he can be at the top at the Olympia level. I just don't see that with 3 to 5 pounds. Maybe if he somehow got up to the weight cap super fast because he wants to be at the Olympia level next year. I don't know if he can do that, but if he somehow added 20 pounds, or let's see, he's at 187 right now, so if he had 5 pounds, 25 pounds, if he had a 25 pounds, whatever, let's say he did it magically overnight. Even with 25 pounds, I think he can do well. With 20 pounds, I think he could do well. 15 pounds, he has to bring up the legs a lot. He has to bring up everything a lot. I'm going to show you him next to Keon Pearson, maybe. I'll put out a kind of a post on Instagram, maybe. Even next to Sean Clarita. It's just get Brion next to someone with Keon level of structure with size. That's he's going to need more than 3 to 5 pounds. That's all I'm saying because he already has a narrower structure than Keon. So I'm eager to see how that works. I don't want to say he can't do it because he certainly can. I think he can get to the Olympia level too for a 212 show. As soon as I don't think he'll have any problem getting to the Olympia because he's just such a good bodybuilder. Yeah, not even just a classic physique guy. He's built a good, complete, well-rounded physique. But getting to the 212, he wants to be at the top, pushing for the title. Not only is he several years off that, let's be conservative, a couple years off that, but he needs to, at 46, he needs to gain 10-ish pounds of muscle, and this is nothing against Brion. Like I said, I like Brion. I think he has been pushed out of the division. I think it's unfair. I think it is, but at the same time, it it is what it is. It is unfair. But I mean, I don't say that negatively. So I feel for Brion. Brion is one of my favorite physiques, uh, not just in classic but overall. So I'm not saying that I'm not a Brion doubter. I'm just saying, well, maybe that's not the most realistic thing, but I think just taking the governor off, just taking that weight cap off of Brion, I think would really open our eyes. So maybe I think I just don't know what I'm talking about because we've never seen Brion without the weight cap, and a dangerous one at that. He's cutting down tons of muscle, multiple pounds of extra fullness and muscle that he cannot replenish in less than 24 hours. So, I can't say confidently what 3 to 5 pounds plus the extra fullness of not having to make a weight cap because he'll be under the 212 weight cap even at his best for the first year or two. So he's going to not just have 3 to 5 pounds or whatever he gains of quality muscle, but extra fullness. And even just, I would need to see how he peaks without the weight cap first to see how realistic it is to see how realistic it is for him to place high at the Olympia with 3 to 5 extra pounds. I think seeing him without a weight cap, fully peaked how he wants to, with no muscle gained. Let's say he just cut down for the Olympia, for a classic Olympia, and didn't have to make weight, just not coasted in, but went in how he wanted to. I think that opened my eyes a lot. So maybe maybe he is already shredded at 200 pounds. He probably is, to be honest, or he probably could be. And maybe at that point, with 3 to 5 pounds of muscle, he doesn't lose the fullness in the legs and certain things, but also makes some gains in the legs and doesn't have to lose them. So maybe, but overall, for me, I'm not going to say it's the right move. I think he could still place inside of the top 5 for a couple more years in Classic. I really think so. Beating Urs at the Arnold UK, an improved Urs from the Arnold Ohio, is definitely a high point. I would definitely stress that. Like, he beat Urs, a very okay Urs at the Arnold UK, so he's not done placing top 5. He will never win another Classic Olympia. I'm sorry, even if these top guys were off, they'd give it to one of them before they gave it to a 110% version of Brion. So I don't think he'll win another Classic Olympia, but I don't think he's going to be pushed out of the top 5 just yet. He's been pushed out of the upper echelon, but not quite just the upper echelon of top 5 or 6. He can place there for probably a couple more years until age really starts catching up with him. Honestly, I see Brion as one of the guys. He's healthy. He doesn't really get injured. He could continue placing top 5 until he reaches 50 probably. And even then, the weight cap would probably catch up with him at some point, just like it did a while ago, because he was fine until he wasn't. But I personally, my gut reaction is I maybe this is a little bit biased though, because I like seeing him in Classic. I'd want to see him more in Classic. And 212, I'm just a bit skeptical. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't know if it's exactly the right choice or not. I think objectively that remains to be seen. We haven't seen him on a 212 stage. We haven't even seen him without a weight cap. So let's taper expectations. Olympia level, I think so. Top 10 at the Olympia, the 212 Olympia. And then top 5 at the Olympia. We're getting into... I really need to see the improvements he makes. But overall, that's been me reacting to Brion's video. The question is, structure versus Brion. So I'm going to upload this as a normal video as well as this live stream here. So I think this one is something I just put together last minute. I don't know how many views it's going to get. I went into this with zero expectations, so it's really whatever. I will do another one of these live, and then I'm going to do those 2 lives, this one and the next one, and I'll really see if the demand is there. So if not, I'm still going to do these reactions regardless. I still do them raw and kind of in one take. So regardless, the reactions will still be here. I like doing these, and it's a good way for me to comment on things that are happening in bodybuilding, whether it's Tyler Manion's breakdowns or something big like this. I like to not make an entire video around it because it kind of slows me down. I'd rather just react to it raw and uncut so you guys get my full ideas and it's not thoroughly processed and I don't have to make a huge video for it and go really in depth on a script or whatever. But that's going to do it for me. So I'm going to keep these live if the demand is there. If not, they'll still be on the channel. So with all that said, I want to make sure you guys like the video. like the stream. This video will come out if you are just tuning in late. It'll come out pretty soon. I'll have the full. Well, I'll probably keep it mostly uncut version. I'll have that up in an hour or two, maybe 3, depending on what the upload speed is. Make sure you guys like the stream, subscribe for more, and that's basically it. With all that said, I want to thank you all for watching, and I will see you all